morning, students. Today we will be starting the second chapter, which is known as sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Sexual reproduction in flowering plants. When we say flower, okay, so these are the things which we use regularly, regular terms, day-to-day life. We use these flowers to various purposes. For example, we offer flowers to the loved ones, and we even offer these flowers as an indication of our condolence. Okay, so these flowers we generally use for various purposes, such as to express our feelings, such as grief, love, affection, and condolence. Even for devotion also, we use these flowers. Okay, when we say flowers, these flowers not only for ornamental purpose. Okay, so these flowers are the main parts where sexual reproduction takes place. Okay. These are the reproductive parts. Flowers are the main reproductive parts. Present in plants. Okay, flowers are the main reproductive parts present in the plants. Okay, so when we say flower, okay, just let us recall the structure of flower. Okay, we have already studied this flower, the parts of flower in the previous class, but in this class we just recall. So what flower is and what are the different parts of the flower. So the main part from where the floral parts originate is known as thalamus. Okay, so these flowers are basically, they are also known as, these are the flowers are basically known as modified stems. Okay, these are modified stems. So these flowers originate in the shoot portion. Okay, so the main part from where the flower parts are originate, that position is known as thalamus. Okay, so just above the thalamus you will see the female reproductive part, so that is known as pistil. Okay, so this portion which is known as pistil, which is the main female reproductive part. So as you can see, this pistil has three parts in it. So one is the stigma, and the long slender tube-like structure which is known as style, and the basal bulge part which is known as ovary. Okay, so all three parts, stigma, style and ovary, they all together called as pistil. Okay, so this is the female reproductive part of the flower. So then just we draw the male reproductive part. The male reproductive part of the flower which is known as stamen. Okay. Okay, so this portion, the diagram which you, the part which you can see here, it is known as stamen. Okay, this is also known as a male reproductive part. So this stamen is having two parts in it. The one is the anther and the other is Other tube-like structure is filament. Other tube-like structure is filament. So these two, anther and filament, they both together called as stamen. They both constitute the male reproductive part of the flower. Okay. Some other parts such as these are called petals. Okay. So these petals will be of varieties of colors. Okay. You see flowers, we generally attracted towards these flowers because of this color and as well as the fragrance inside it. Okay. So these petals are of various colors. Okay. So these petals of various colors. Then just attached to thalamus there is one more part which is known as, it's a small leaf-like structure. It's a small leaf-like structure which we call it as sepals. We call it as sepals. Okay. So these sepals and petals, they are accessory orals of the flower. Okay. Sepals as well as petals, these are all called accessory orals. Okay, there is one more term to explain this. These petals are known as corolla portion. Petals are known as corolla, and these sepals are known as calyx. Okay, so these calyx and corolla both are accessory orals. Accessory orals of the flower, whereas the pistil and stamen, these are reproductive orals. So these are the main parts where reproduction takes place, and these calyx and corolla are accessory orals. So the function of this calyx and corolla is protection. Okay, they generally protect the flowering plant. Say for example, if the if the flower is in budding state, bud state, okay, so at that point of time, the sepals cover the flower. Okay, sepals as well as these petals, they cover the inside part, ovary, stigmastyle and the stamen. They all cover these portions. So these sepals and petals are called as their function is protection. Main function is protection. Okay, they are called as calyx and corolla. Okay, so now we will try to understand the male reproductive part. Okay, we will generally start with male reproductive part, then we will go to the female reproductive part. Okay. Okay. First, we will try to understand the structure and morphology of the male reproductive part, which is known as stamen. Okay. So stamen, this is also known as male reproductive part. That is, one more term is there for the male reproductive part, that is androecium. Androecium. Okay, androecium is nothing but the male reproductive part. Okay. So this stamen has main two parts. Okay, one is microsporangia, which will release the male gametophyte, that is pollen grain. Okay, microsporangia. Second one is pollen grain. Okay, these are the main parts. This is a microsporangia where the germination and or production of these pollen grains take place. Okay, so these pollen grains carry male gametes. There are generally two gametes in each pollen grain. Okay, we will try to study these portions. Okay, we will try to understand the structure of stamen. The stamen contains two portions. One is anther. anther and a long tube-like structure which is known as filament. So this is known as anther and long tube-like structure or long hair-like structure which is known as filament. Okay. So the base of the filament is attached to the generally, you just write here. It has two parts, anther and filament. The base of the filament is attached to either the thalamus or petals. Okay, the base of the filament is either attached to the thalamus portion and or the petals. Okay, so this end which is the base is attached to thalamus, that portion we call it as proximal end. Proximal means which is towards the plant, and the other portion is distal portion. So the distal portion has anther. Okay, so in the anther, as you can see, the anther. So now we'll try to understand the anther. Anther is a bilobed structure. As you can see, there are two lobes in it. Okay, it is a bilobed structure. It's a bilobed structure. Okay, I will just try to draw the anther here one more time. I will try to draw the little enlarged view of this anther. Okay, so these two lobes. So enlarged view. Structure of anther. Okay, so this is the enlarged view of the anther. As you can see, it has two lobes. Okay, so I will just try to show you. This portion is one lobe and the other portion is another lobe. So it's a bilobed structure. Okay, in each lobe, as you can see, in each lobe, say for example, I am trying to take this portion, left side portion. Okay. So that contains again two parts. Okay, those parts are known as theca. Okay, this one is theca and this one is theca. Okay, if I am taking only left side, there you can see two theca. Okay, so each lobe has two theca. Okay, so it is known as dithecous. Okay, so as I said, anther is a bilobed structure because it has two lobes. One is on the left side and the other is on the right side. Okay, each lobe has two parts. Okay, each lobe has two parts. Those are known as theca. That is why each lobe has two theca. That is known as dithecous. Okay, so then if you could see the anther correctly, you will see four structures. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are four structures. So is a tetragonal structure. Okay, so each having a microsporangia. Microsporangia. Okay, these microsporangia will develop into pollen sacs, and these pollen sacs will give rise to pollen grains. Okay, that process we will try to understand. Okay, so now we will just quickly recall it. So anther is a bilobe structure. Each lobe has 2 theca, so it is known as dithecous, and it is a tetragonal structure, each having a microsporangia. So that means inside the theca 1, 2, 3, 4 there are 4 microsporangia are present. Okay, so then we will try to even we try to further enlarge this part of the anther. Okay, so as we have seen initially, we have drawn stamen portion which contains 2 parts, anther and the filament, and we have just enlarged the anther to show the 4 structures, those are known as microsporangia. Now we are going to enlarge this structure even more, so that we can see the structure of microsporangia. So I am going to draw the structure of microsporangia. Structure of microsporangia. Okay, structure of microsporangia. So this structure of microsporangia, it generally has 4 layers. Okay, I will just try to draw one layer at a time. Okay. This is the first layer or the outermost layer, which is known as epidermis. The outermost layer of the outermost layer of the microsporangia is known as epidermis. Epidermis. Just below the epidermis, we will see the one more layer. That is known as endothecium. Just below the epidermis, you will see the endothecium. The second layer is known as endothecium. Then there, just below the endothecium, you will see 1 or 2 layers of cells. Those are known as middle layer cells. Okay. Again, there will be 2 layer cells. So these cells are known as, these layers are known as middle layers. So the function of these 3, epidermis, endothecium and middle layers, is the main function is protection and dehiscence of pollen grain. Okay, so the main function of these 3 layers, epidermis, endothecium and middle layers, is the main function is protection and dehiscence of pollen grain. Okay, so just below the middle layers, you will find large cells which have dense cytoplasma and a prominent nucleus. So just below the middle layers, you will find large cells with the dense cytoplasma, and generally they are multinucleate. Okay, they contain more than one nuclei. So So these are called tapetum. Okay, so the large size of the tapetum cells is to ensure the abundance of food to the developing pollen mother cells, okay, or sporogenous tissue. So the main function of tapetum is nutrition, or nourishment of developing pollen grains. Nutrition or nourishment of developing pollen grains. Okay. So just the innermost layer. So innermost layer of the microsporangia constitute, or it has a tissue which is known as sporogenous tissue. Okay, so these are the cells which gives rise to microspore mother cell or the pollen mother cell, which further develop into pollen grains and or pollen sacs, and they will release. They will only convert as pollen grains. Okay, so these are the main tissue which are responsible for the development of pollen mother cell or microspore mother cell, from which the pollen grains are produced. Okay, so these are the various parts of the microsporangia. Okay, we'll just quickly recall the various parts. It contains many four layers. The outermost epidermis, endothecium, middle layers. The main function of these three layers is protection and dehiscence of pollen grain. And just below the middle layers, we find tapetum. The main function of this tapetum is nutrition or nourishment of the developing pollen grains. And these are the tapetum cells are large and they have densely packed cytoplasma and multinucleate cells. Okay, so the innermost mass of cells is known as sporogenous tissue. Okay, so this is the structure of microsporangia. Now we will try to understand the process of microsporogenesis. Okay. Microsporogenesis. Okay, so microsporogenesis, it is a process. It is a process from which formation of pollen mother cell, formation of microspore. Instead of pollen mother cell, we'll write it as microspore. It is a process from which the formation of microspore from pollen mother cell. So microsporogenesis is a process in which microspores are formed from the pollen mother cell. So these pollen mother cells are formed from these pollen mother cells, or PMC, pollen mother cells are formed from sporogenous tissue. tissue. Okay. So generally, the sporogenous tissue or pollen mother cell, we also call it as microspore mother cell. Microspore mother cell. Mother cell. These microspore mother cell, they divide meiotically. Microspore mother cell, or I will just simply write MMC, microspore mother cell or pollen mother cell, both are same, so I will write PMC here. Pollen mother cells divide meiotically to form microspore tetrad. Microspore tetrad. Okay, so these microspore mother cell, they have the capacity to act as pollen mother cell or pollen grain. So these will finally converted into pollen grains. Okay, so you have to remember here one thing, that the sporogenous tissue is presenting young anther. As the anther matures, this sporogenous tissue will divide meiotically, forming microspore tetrad. So these microspore tetrad, they are also known as microspore mother cell, or finally they will be converted to pollen grains. Okay, so this you have to remember. Now that you have understood the formation of pollen grains from the pollen mother cell, so we have to understand the pollen grains. They generally, once the pollen grains are formed, they are the main male reproductive parts. Okay, they are the main male reproductive gametes. Okay, so this pollen grain will fall on the stigma portion of the pistil. From the stigma, it will travel all the way to style to reach the ovary, where ovary contains ovules. Inside the ovule you find eggs. So there, this pollen grain will release two male gametes. Those will fuse with the egg, and the other will fuse with the nucleus. Okay, forming other will fuse with the polar nucleus. That process we will try to understand in the future class. Okay, so now we have to understand. The structure of pollen grain. Okay, so as you see, the pollen grain is the main male reproductive gamete, male reproductive part. Okay, so it is important for us to understand the structure of pollen grain. Okay, so we'll just try to draw the structure of pollen grain. Okay, so it is a spherical in nature. The structure is spherical in nature. The pollen grain structure is spherical, and the size is around 25 to 50 micrometer. The size of the pollen grain is around 25 to 50 micrometer. Okay, so this pollen grain has generally two layers or two walls. Okay, so this is the one which I have drawn. This is the outermost layer, outermost wall, which is known as exine. Okay, outermost wall, which is known as exine. Wait, we just write here exine. Okay, as I said, the pollen has two walls. two walls. Okay, so outermost wall is known as exine. Okay, so this exine is made up of a special type of compound which is known as sporopollenin. So this exine is made up of sporopollenin. Okay, so exine is made up of a special type of compound which is known as sporopollenin. Okay, so this sporopollenin is a very hard compound. Okay, so far there is the scientists were unable to find an enzyme which can break down this sporopollenin. Okay, so this sporopollenin is hard compound and it is tolerant to. It is sporopollenin is tolerant to most of the organic materials. Or chemicals. Most of the organic materials. So as these sporopollenins are resistant or tolerant to organic materials, it can withstand high temperature and acids and alkali. Okay, so as this sporopollenin is tolerant or resistant to most of the organic materials, organic chemicals, so it can withstand high temperature, acids as well as alkali. And even we have not found any enzyme which can break down this sporopollenin. Okay, so these pollen grains, those will be very those we can store for the development or which we can store as the pollen banks. Okay, we can store the pollen grains in the pollen banks because of the presence of this sporopollenin. Okay, so this exine, coming back to the exine portion has a small pore-like structure on the outer surface. Okay, so where small pore-like structure on the outer surface, which we will call it as germ pores. Okay, so germ pore, it is a small pore-like structure present on the outer surface of the exine, so which we will call it as germ pore. So germ pore is the place where sporopollenin is not present. Okay, so sporopollenin is not present. For that reason only, a small pore will be formed on the outer surface of the exine. Okay, so this germ pore is very important because the gametes which are produced inside the pollen grain, those will be released out during the gap fusion of gametes. They have released. So in that point, so these germ pore will act as a gate. Through this germ pore, the male gamete will discharge out. Okay, so this plays a very important role. So next portion, the second layer of the pollen grain is known as intine. Okay, the second layer is known as intine. Okay, the second layer or the inside layer of the pollen grain is known as intine. I will just draw the complete diagram of the pollen grain, then I will try to explain. Okay, so it has two cells inside the pollen grain. One is the vegetative cell. This is vegetative cell, and the small one is generative cell. Generative cell. So these are various parts of the pollen grain. First, and inside this you will find a cytoplasma, dense cytoplasma, both the cells, and just outside or the cytoplasma is surrounded by plasma membrane. Okay, it is surrounded by plasma membrane. Okay, so this is a typical structure of a pollen grain. So as you can see, the pollen grain is made up of two main walls. So one wall or the outermost wall is known as exine, which is made up of sporopollenin, and a small pore is there on the outer surface of exine where the sporopollenin is absent. That pore is known as germ pore, and just below the exine you will find the second layer that is known as intine. So intine is made up of, is a continuous layer made up of cellulose and pectin. Okay, the inner wall or the intine is made up of two compounds, that is cellulose and pectin. Okay, so as you can see, the pollen grain, you will find two cells inside it. So one is the large cell, which is known as vegetative cell. Vegetative cell, which is large in size, having dense cytoplasma, and a large nucleus. Okay, the main function of this large vegetative cell is to nourish the generative cell. Okay, so it provides all kinds of nutrients to the generative cell. Okay, so next coming to generative cell. So generative cell, again it also has a cytoplasma and a small nucleus. It also has cytoplasma and a small nucleus. Okay, the main function of the generative cell is to produce gametes. Okay, so during the sexual reproduction, it will discharge two male gametes. Okay, so this generative cell undergoes mitotic division. Okay, so this generative cell undergoes mitotic division during fertilization or during fertilization. So it will discharge two male gametes. Okay, as you know, mitosis means mother cell will divide into two cells. Okay, so it will develop two male gametes. Okay, and the main function of vegetative cell is to nourish the generative cell. So this is the structure of pollen grain. Okay, a quick recap or quick recall. We'll see the structure of pollen grain once again. So the structure of pollen grain is composed of two layers. The outer layer is exine, which is made up of sporopollenin, and it has provided with a spore, which is known as where the sporopollenin is absent. So that pore is known as germ pore, and the inner layer is known as intine, that is made up of cellulose and pectin. And the cells, there are two cells inside the pollen grain. One is vegetative cell, and the second one is generative cell. Okay, so vegetative cells are provided with the dense cytoplasma with large nucleus. The main function of the vegetative cell is to provide nourishment to the generative cell. Okay, and generative cell is a small which floats inside the vegetative cell. The main function of the generative cell is to release gametes. So it undergoes mitotic division to release the gametes. So this is the main function of pollen grain. Okay, so now we'll try to understand the properties of this pollen grain. Now that we have understood the structure of pollen grain and various parts of it, there are several advantages as well as disadvantages of this pollen grain is there, or we can call it as applications. Okay, so these pollen grains to human beings. So, for example, to human beings, these pollen grains, they have the capacity to cause respiratory disorders. Okay, so it can cause chronic respiratory disorders. Disorders such as asthma and bronchitis. Okay. Okay, pollen grains. Some people have the allergies. Okay, towards these pollen grains. So if the persons are exposed to pollen grains or they inhale any pollen grain, they will develop some chronic respiratory disorders such as asthma and bronchitis. Okay, chronic respiratory disorder. Chronic means it's a recurring. Okay, there are two terms in medical terminology. One is chronic and the acute. Acute is one-time disease. Okay, acute diseases are one time, they come and go. But these chronic are recurring. Once they come and go, and they can again come to the human being. Okay, so that we will call it as chronic respiratory disease. And these pollen grains are available in the market in the form of tablets as well as syrups. Because these pollen grains are having high nutritive value. Okay, these pollen grains they have the high nutritive value. So in the market they are available in the form of tablets as well as syrups in some countries. Okay, so these tablets and syrups are known to increase the performance. Increase the performance in athletes as well as race horses. Okay, athletes as well as race horses. Okay, so now the main. Okay, so these are several applications and the disadvantages of this pollen grain. And the main function of the pollen grain is the reproduction. Okay, it's a male gametophyte. Okay, so during reproduction, what happens? The several kinds of pollinations are there. Say for example, insect will carry these pollen grains onto the female reproductive part, that is pistil. Okay, on the pistil, these pollen grains will fall on the stigma portion. Okay, then from the stigma portion, the pollen grain will travel all the way through style to reach the ovary. Okay, where in ovary ovules are there the pollen grain, after reaching the ovule, it will release two male gametes. One will fuse with the egg and the other will fuse with the polar nuclei. Okay, so that process will learn in the future class. Okay, so this is the structure of pollen grain. So now that we have understood the male reproductive part, we try to understand the female reproductive part. The female reproductive part is known as pistil. The female reproductive part is known as pistil. So pistil is also called as carpel. The other name for pistil is carpel. Okay. So in flowers, in several flowers, okay, the pistil may be one, the pistil may be single or many. If the flower contains only one pistil, then the flower is known as monocarpellary. If the flower contains only one pistil, so then that flower is known as monocarpellary. Monocarpellary. Okay. So if the gynoecium or the pistil, the number of pistils are more, or 1, 2, 3. Okay. So those are known as multicarpellary. 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 So in multicarpellary, there are again two types. Okay. So one is syncarpous, and the second one is apocarpous. Okay. So syncarpous means the pistils. As in multicarpellary, we see many pistils. The syncarpous means the pistils are fused. Okay. And apocarpous means the pistils are free. Pistils are free. Okay. So these are various types of pistils. Okay. So now we will try to understand the structure of pistil. So pistil contains mainly three parts: the flat or disc-shaped structure, which is known as stigma, and long, slender, tube-like structure, which is known as style, and large bulged structure, which is known as ovary. So inside the ovary there will be ovules are present, and those ovules will be having eggs. So eggs means the female gamete. Okay. Or during fertilization, the egg will be the male gametophyte. The male gametophyte will release the pollen male gametes. So those male gametes will fuse with the egg. Okay, that is reproduction. Then we will try to understand the structure of ovary. Okay. Okay, we'll just try to write some point. Ovary, inside the ovary, you will find ovules. Or inside the ovary you will find, first I will write it in an order so that you can understand easily. Inside the ovary there will be present ovarian cavity, that is called as locule. Okay. So the large bulge portion contains the cavity inside it, so that cavity is known as ovarian cavity. So inside ovarian cavity you will find placenta. Inside the ovarian cavity you will find placenta. So from this placenta originates ovule. Ovule is also called as megaspore, or in general terms we will call it as seed also. Okay. So this is about the structure of ovary, and the main, we will just quickly recall it. The female reproductive part contains three portions. What is stigma, which is a disc-shaped structure which receives the pollen grains, and style, it guides the pollen grain towards the ovary, and the finally large bulge part is known as ovary. Inside the ovary you will find ovules. Okay, so inside the ovary we find ovarian cavity which is known as locule, and just inside the ovarian cavity we find placenta, to which from which the ovules or seeds originate. Okay, so this is the structure of fistula. So now we will try to understand the structure of ovule or megaspore. Megaspore. Okay. So now, as we have already understood that the megaspore or ovule is attached to placenta, we try to draw the structure from the placenta. So this is a large portion placenta, from which many layers will be formed. Okay. So this is the structure of ovule or megaspore. So the main portion from which the ovule will arise is known as placenta. Okay. The ovule is attached to the placenta with the help of a structure known as funicle. Okay. So the place where is a funicle is the main part which holds the ovule to the placenta. Okay. So this area, this complete area where the placenta is attached to funicle is called as hilum. Okay. Hilum is the area which represents the junction of funicle with the placenta. So just below the hilum, you will find many integuments. Okay, one or two integuments. Okay, I have drawn only one integument. I will draw one more here. Okay, so these are integuments. Integuments. So one is outer integument, this one is outer integument, and this is the inner integument. Okay, there are two integuments. One is outer integument and inner integument. The main function of the integument is to provide protection. Okay, so just below the integument you will find one more layer, that is known as nucellus. Okay, so just below the integument you will find nucellus. Okay, so nucellus, the cells of nucellus, they are large, densely packed, or they have dense cytoplasma, and they contain large nucleus. Okay, write the function here. Funicle is the attachment of placenta with the ovule. Okay, second one is the integuments. There are two integuments, outer and inner integuments. The function of integuments is to provide protection. Okay, so then below the integuments we will find nucellus. So nucellus, the layer of nucellus contains cells which are large cells with dense cytoplasma, and large nucleus. large nucleus. Okay. So inside the nucellus there is the main part, or this will call it as embryo sac. Embryo sac. Okay. Inside the embryo sac there several cells will be there, or this embryo sac is formed from my megaspore mother cell. Mother cell. Okay. So just quickly recall the structure of ovule or megaspore has several portions. The portion where the ovule is attached to placenta with the help of cuticle. Cuticle is a portion where it cuticle represents the junction of placenta to the cuticle. Okay. And the junction where it is situated, that area is known as hilum. Okay. Just below the hilum you will find several layers. It surrounds the nucellus. Those are called as integuments. There are two integuments, outer integument and the inner integument. And just below the integuments you will find the one more layer of cells that is called as nucellus. Okay. These nucellus are nutritive in nature. They are large cells. They are densely packed in cytoplasma and they have a large nucleus. Okay, they are generally associated with the nutrition. And inside innermost layer, innermost cell is known as embryo sac. Okay, inside the embryo sac, you will find eggs or female gamete. Okay, so these embryo sac are developed from megaspore mother cell. Okay, so next portion, megaspore genesis, that we will see in the next class.